Okay, this portion of the lab is going to be done using Lightsail. If you're in the AWS Management Console, which you can get to by signing into AWS, um, it'll be under the compute services right here. But you can also search for it using the search bar at the top here and just type in Lightsail. Now you might be asking, well, what is Lightsail? Um, it's basically this platform where you can set up all of these different virtual machines in the cloud. You can link them together. You can give them static IP addresses. You can incorporate databases for them. I don't have any of these things set up right now. You can also take what are called snapshots of these databases or of these virtual machines. You can see a little description right here that basically describes what that is. You can think of it in a similar way to the version control of Git and GitHub, where you can revert changes that someone has made if something goes wrong. So to get started with it, we're going to go ahead and create an instance using this big orange button right here. And the platform we'll be using for this lab will be Linux and Unix. Now, there's all these different software options down here for all these apps. You might see a LAMP setup right here, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and think, well, that's exactly what we're doing in here. Why aren't we using that one? It's because it's managed with this service called Bitnami, and it is a little bit more secure than what we're going to be doing. But things are also in a different location, and the modifications of the Bitnami version are, in my opinion, somewhat annoying, and I believe it's going to be problematic for students, which is why we're going to be doing it using the OS only. We're going to be using the Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. This is the OS only again, and I'm selecting I know it's an older version of Ubuntu, it's not the latest one, but pretty much every problem under the sun has been solved for this online. You can just find a Stack Overflow article for anything that you may run into. And that tends to be a really good thing for students. If you scroll down, you'll see a little point where you can add what's called a launch script. So when this virtual machine starts up for the first time, or when you reboot it, a series of things that it'll go through. We're not going to have a launch script. We're going to just redefine everything. We're gonna install everything the first time we log in there. The way that you make modifications to this is through the command line, and it's going to be using this little in-browser SSH terminal. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. So if you scroll down even further, you'll see all these different tiers, and you see all these dollar values, and you say, well, I thought this was going to be free. If you notice the little blue bubble right here, it says the first month is free. All of the work that we will be doing for the lab portion at the very least will be done within the first month, and you can delete your instance after I put in the grades, which will be relatively soon, so that you don't get charged. As you can see, the cost is per month is still pretty cheap. So even if you forget, you're not going to lose an arm and a leg over it. But the resources are very, very minimal. One CPU, 512 megabytes of RAM, which is basically like something from like the 90s, and 20 gigs of SSD memory. And then don't worry about the transfer bandwidth and everything. You're not going to be using any of that. We're going to just rename this from Ubuntu-1 to CS230 Lab. And as you can see, you can define an arbitrary number of these instances. And of course, you would get charged appropriately per machine that you're taking up. But you can see it goes all the way up to a very, very beefy machine right here for $160 a month. So if you needed a lot of processing power, that would work out. You can also transfer Lightsail services to things like EC2, which is called Elastic Cloud. It allows for some better scalability. So there's, if you go back to the AWS Management Console, you'll see something like 600 different services or whatever that they have. A lot of services, a lot of machine learning stuff. So pretty much everything based on your needs. We're going to go ahead and create this instance right now. And while this is spinning up, I'm just going to go through a couple of these other things. Now, if we had all these different link containers here, you would see them in this little tab. We're not going to link our database in here. We're not going to set up our database in here. We're going to actually do it within the instance itself. I found that that is relatively straightforward. After we install phpMyAdmin, you'll just graphically install, or you'll just graphically import the SQL file that should be in your Git repo. And as for networking, like I was saying before, you can link all these together. You can set up different domain names that kind of link to the same machine or link to the same set of machines using DNS zones. You can set up a static IP address, which just means that the IP address doesn't change at all. This is useful for serving a website so that every time the lease on the IP address expires, basically, you don't have people having issues finding your website. And then load balancers, you can read the description here, basically just adding redundancy and distributing the traffic to different to multiple VMs, basically. So if you go back to your instances, it should be all set up at the moment. And if you click on this, you'll see a couple of other different options here. You can see the metrics. So like I said, we don't have that much computing power. So it's very, very minimal right here. As long as you stay within the zone, you'll be good. Since we're not serving this to, since many people aren't going to be looking at our website, it's going to typically stay within the sustainable zone. I haven't seen anyone who goes outside of it. And then storage, so you'll be able to see how much storage is being used, and this is where you'll go to actually delete the instance right there. I'm going to go over to the connect, and this is where I'm actually going to connect using the SSH, and we'll start setting everything up. So if you, when you spin this up, you'll see a little bit of metrics up top here when you first sign in. How much of the hard drive is being used. This is your RAM. I think it'll get up somewhere around like 67% or so by the time we're done, all the processes. The first thing we're going to do is sudo apt update -y. The -y flag is yes. So I'm automatically saying yes to when it's going to ask me if I want to update everything. And then sudo apt upgrade -y. And this will take a couple of minutes. So just be aware of that. It shouldn't take too long though. This is on Amazon's internet, so it's very consistent and strong. You'll be confronted with a couple of different prompts in like a light pink or purple in just a minute. Restart the services without asking. You're gonna just use the directional pad on your keyboard, which is like just those arrows. Make sure that yes is highlighted and then hit enter or return if you're on a Mac, like I am. There's a couple more prompts, so you can just fast forward until I get to them. they're going to be concerning an sshd underscore config and another file or two. And it's going to ask you if you want to leave the ones that are on your computer or on your instance the same, keep the local version basically, or update them. And you're going to keep them the same because you don't want to lose access to your instance, because that configuration is how we're connecting right here using this terminal. So just be aware of that. You might be asking why we're doing this upgrade process, apart from the stupid answer because I told you to. It's because there can often be problems when you are installing software, um, especially like on Linux, and you don't have all the rest of the packages updated. That can cause some issues when you're installing, and then things get corrupted, and then you have to go and reinstall everything or subtract things out, and it becomes really, really annoying. And this is one of the prompts right here. We're going to keep the local version. It's already highlighted, so we're just going to hit enter. And then after this is done, we'll install Apache, PHP, etc. Again, keep the local version. You may have to hit enter twice on this one for some reason. And I'm just going to clear my screen. So I'm going to do sudo apt get install Apache 2, PHP, and mysql-server. And I'm going to throw the -y flag on there because I want it to get installed. Now this is PHP 7.2, as you can see by the things that are scrolling down right here. I'm going to clear this out now, and I'm going to do sudo apt get install. Actually, before we do this, before we install anything else, I'm gonna just check to make sure that Apache is running. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go back to this Lightsail console over here. Don't close out of this terminal. Just go right here. Highlight the IP address, and if you're in Chrome, you can just do a right click and go to, and you should see the default Apache page, and that tells you that Apache is running. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to do PHP. Let's set up the MySQL _ secure _ installation. We're not going to use this validate password plugin. We're just going to hit no or N. Any other key will do. You're going to set a new password for this. It's going to be CS230 lab, all lowercase. I have not. You can't see what you're typing, so just keep that in mind. CS230 LAB. Remove anonymous users. Disallow remote login. Y. Remove test database. Y. Reload privileges table. Y. All done. Great. And now I'm going to do sudo apt get install php my admin. And I forgot to put the Y flag on there, so I'm going to just say yes. Use the spacebar to make sure that there is a little asterisk in here where right beside where it says Apache 2. You'll be able to tell where you are because the A in Apache 2 will be highlighted in white there. And after you have a little asterisk, just hit enter. And then just hit yes. And then the MySQL application password for phpMyAdmin is going to be CS230 lab, all lowercase, CS230 lab. And that should give you success messages right here. Things have been configured and everything. And I'm just going to put a / on here, phpMyAdmin. And lo, there you are, phpMyAdmin and CS230 lab. And there you go. phpMyAdmin is on there. Now you'll notice we don't have any databases on here yet. Everything's been fleshed out. We'll get to that in the next video where we actually will clone our Git repo onto this VM. But for now, you know that your phpMyAdmin and everything is installed. Apache is running. You can also do sudo systemctl. I think it's what we're checking, and then my SQL server. Yeah, there we go, active, running. And you can do that with Apache and any other service that you're running. So that's all I have for that.